I might take a drive today around and allow you guys to enjoy the relatively severe conditions from the comfort of your homes and computers. So obviously it's about a 35-mile-an-hour wind, blowing snow. You know, you got sagebrush blowing, or I should say tumbleweeds blowing. So it's not a real pleasant day. Here on the southern plains, it's very irregular. This time of year, which is early February, you can have days that are 65 and sunny. You can essentially almost have t-shirt weather, or it can be straight out, you know, harsh winter. You don't know what you're going to get, and you can get heavy wet snows this time of year. It can go from sunshine to sometimes, on rare occasions, a foot or two of snow. So anyway, you never know what you're going to get. But I thought we'd take a little ride out here, and we're going to see some interesting things. One fun thing to consider is that all these fields out here that you see on these videos, the great majority of them were wheat fields at one time. Now, of course, it's all cattle pasture, exclusively cattle pasture. There is no remaining wheat in this area whatsoever, but we're taking our drive down towards an old homestead that was in fact a farm, and you're going to see various farm equipment and farm accoutrements at this homestead, and I just find it's always surprising and interesting to be in this very western cattle-oriented scenery, and then to show people the remains of the world that has passed on here, the world of the small farmer, the world of the homesteader. So the original settlers here got, you know, 160, 320 acre homesteads that were intended to be crop farms, and they farmed those, and those eventually failed. On a good year you'll get an excellent crop here, but on a bad year you lose your shirt, and the bad years ended up. And here, this is fun. We're going to drive through a barrier of tumbleweeds. Look. Pow! Anyway, so we're coming up to the homestead here, and you can see it's kind of fun. There's different eras of homestead. There's that little square wooden homestead structure. Sometimes they call them a claim shack. You know, it's a, I don't know, 2-3 room structure. Never would have had running water or electricity. You can see it had an old wood stove in the middle just to keep them alive in there, and a whole family would have lived in there because, you know, they had to prove up their land. And now as we go down a little farther, we actually come to an interesting stone-built structure, which is a much heavier built structure. And contrary to what you might imagine, the more impressive or the more developed stone structure is probably considerably older than the wooden structure. Typically out here, the stone stuff was earlier than the 20s, and it was often involved by Spanish people making it. You know, the Anglo farmers from the east typically put up lightly built wood frame structures. They didn't do as much with the stone. But you can see there's an old grain bin right there, and that's not that old. There may have been wheat in there in the 1970s. And then we kind of come along this kind of fascinating, what I would call an equipment graveyard out there. You can see there's wheat harvesting machinery. There's a number of different dry land plows. There's old automobiles, hay balers for making small square bales. There's a seeder there for seeding wheat, an old hay rake, some sort of a miniature car, and that's about it. So we're gonna head home, but I thought it was pretty interesting to see those relics out there on the prairie.